It's a Saturday morning. I think it's like 10:15. Yeah, 10:21. So
It's
it's
really good to have my
mid-morning.
daughter back. She's been goofing around the last 3 weeks.
Not been goofing. We have put Sam on as a replacement because I've been busy. Anyways, but yeah, we are back. My dad was here for a week. He was down in Mendocino, California, which has like fog that comes into like the area, which is really cool. And it's right by the coast in Northern California. So you were there. And then he heads out on Sunday again to where you go next time?
I head to Colorado,
Colorado
Colorado Springs.
Springs for a week,
I
right?
work at a ministry called Revolution 5. It's a youth leadership training school. So I'll be videoing live from there
Hmm.
and maybe interview one of the leaders of the ministry as well. Because I've been going down there about 9 years speaking on the Father Heart.
Yeah. So that he'll be doing that. So yeah, we are here for our weekly little chats. Yeah. So what's the topic today, Dad?
The topic today is fear, the enemy of the soul. This is a big topic, and it was difficult for me to kind of condense it. So if I don't finish it today, and Julius, as always, is free to make comments and interject a bit. But this is a big subject because I think many people, and you probably know them, and could be one of them, that suffer from fear. Now, I'm not talking about the healthy fear like attacked by a dog or things like that, healthy fears. I'm talking about these emotional fears. When I say the enemy of the soul, I mean who you are deep inside. And for me, the soul, and people can define it different, it's kind of like the spirit of man. You have the spirit of God, kind of like the spirit of the world, and the spirit of man. And our spirit of man, or the soul of man, it has to do with our mind, how we think. It has to do with our will, what we choose to do. And it has to do with our emotions. Because our emotions are a powerful force. It's this energy. Emotions are energy. It's emotion, the love of a child that makes you run into a burning building to rescue your child. And it's love that keeps us and holds us on to people. And it's an unbreakable bond in many, many ways. It should be anyway. So all this is affected by fear. And it's kind of sad. And if you look around the world, not right now, there's quite a bit of fear people have. And some fear is right, some fear is justable, just fear is imagined fear. But fear is a big enemy of who we want to be. And
It kind of would control every aspect of it. It could
yeah,
kind of consume you.
it can control every aspect and consume who we are. Obviously, I talk with a lot of people when I speak and pray. I was just at a discipleship training school on Friday and sharing a little bit about what I'll be speaking on and the ministry of the Father Heart. And I just felt that everybody should get up and pray against coping mechanisms. Coping mechanism, what I define, things we do to cope with the problems inside and never bring them up to the front. And many times it's you don't know you can, or there's not a safe place to do it, or what happens when I do it. Because you end up coping because you've been hurt, whether somebody loved you and they betrayed you, or a combination of things. And I was down in Mendocino and I began to realize these two particular ladies I've talked to, they were full of fear and you could kind of tell it on them, but they didn't want to say anything. They didn't want to speak out. They didn't want to do nothing. And they actually admitted, oh, I'm not going to tell anything. I'm stuffing everything. And so I said, well, would you like to try to be free and give it all to God? And they said, yeah. And they said, okay, I'm going to take a chance. And in Mendocino and other places, they decided to take a chance. So that was good. So, and we've been talking about areas of darkness in our lives. And the things that cover those areas of darkness. We talked about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks with Sam, and his area of darkness was anger. And we saw anger covers much of our hurt. And how anger also hurts other people. And Sam shared his testimony and how he was healed. Now, does he still struggle? Not nearly as much. And he's beginning to walk it out. And then the last week I was in Mendocino and I talked about shame. Shame covers a lot of stuff. Shame has a tendency to isolate us. When anybody feels shame, they back away from relationships, they back away from God, rather than lean into things. And that's because they've been hurt,
Mhm.
and the best way to do it is back up. Because when you share things that are very personal to you, you can't really control what the other person does with that information. They might think, oh wow, I don't want nothing to do with you. Or they could do even worse and betray you and tell those intimate things to somebody else. So therefore, it's covered.
So with the areas of darkness, can you just remind us what that is again?
Area of darkness to me is that part of our soul that is hidden away. And in that soul, you can call it a box, you can call it a room, you hide some of the bad things that have happened to you. And you just hope in time you'll forget them and you can move on.
Mm-hmm.
From a Christian point of view, I throw in the fact it's a part of our soul that isn't exposed to the light of God, isn't exposed to the presence of God. And I say that because it's in the presence of God are we set free. And
So if we're hiding it, there's almost like we're not letting it be open for God to like bring light and bring healing and freedom because you're hiding it. So the hiding in itself is controlling rather than be free in the moment.
yeah, it's like my daughter Aunt Julia here. Like say if I did something to hurt her, well she would bury that at first. And if she was afraid to bring it to me because she says, I don't want to hurt I don't want to hurt Dad's feelings. I'm afraid he'll respond exactly the same way as he did before. So she hides it. She doesn't want to bring it out. But she needs to bring it out to somebody.
Mm.
And eventually she'll bring it out to me as a father. And my choice is I have to respond appropriately to her. If I keep, when she brings in something and I keep responding negatively towards her and blaming her or criticizing her, she eventually realizes it's not worth bringing anything up to Dad because it just makes me feel worse. So you avoid all that stuff. So what happens is that relationship now begins to separate and you begin to isolate.
Yeah.
And you go in or you get angry. And that can happen. Even if you got a good father and a good relationship, things can come in and try to split us. So
Can you also remind us where the scripture that the revelation comes from? Isn't it in Romans somewhere?
what scripture?
The one that talks about the areas of darkness that you always think about.
It's in 2 Corinthians. Well, the areas of darkness is the one she says, 1 John chapter 1, verses 5 through 7, where it talks about you can either walk in the light or walk in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And when it says walk, it usually means a choice. You can choose. Nobody's going to force you to walk in the light or walk in the darkness.
Mm-hmm.
You're just going to have to choose. Because when things happen to you, you make a choice. I'm going to shut down. I'm going to get angry. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Then as you grow and you get mature and you maybe know the Lord, you begin to realize it might be better for me to be open and expose it to the light. So I want to talk about, you have a question, Julie?
Well, I just think sometimes it's interesting because I think like in general, we always think like, oh, we're free or we're not free, rather than you could be free in certain areas, but you might struggle in others. And the whole enemy, the tactic in life is to isolate you. If the enemy can isolate you, if the enemy can make you hide, then you don't deal with it and then you're stuck. And so I think it's really important to remind, like, you can be free in certain areas, still totally love God, or still like be functionable, but then there could be an area that you're unaware that's actually very much hidden from yourself, that you've hidden from yourself because it's easier to do that, and then therefore you're walking in this darkness and you're not fully walking in freedom. And I just think it's interesting because in society we crave to be with people and we want community, and it's because we know in that we can share and God can come in and show us his unconditional love. But if we don't give the opportunity to be in community and to share and to love, we don't actually even have the opportunity to feel his presence, feel acceptance or unconditional love. So it's really kind of like this interesting, like when you hide it, you don't do anything for anyone, even though it's a big risk to share. It's only through that and trusting with people that are safe. That's really important, people that are safe. And then you'll feel this unconditional love, and that in itself will free you, because it's the kindness of Jesus that frees us. That's why we follow him. He's kind. And in that, you're just like, it changes you. So I just think that as he goes into this next thing, it's just a good reminder to think of why we should share, because it allows for that freedom and that unconditional love to be expressed and to change you through people being used by God. Yeah?
Very good, Julian. So, like I said, fear. When there's areas of darkness, there's 5 things that we cover up our hurts with. There are probably more, but I discovered 5. And I talked about 2: anger, shame. And the other 2 would be denial. You deny anything's wrong. And fear. Not and fear, denial and pride. And when you get right down to it, fear covers everything. All those are pretty much related to fear. Anger, shame, denial, all related to fear. That fear is the one enemy of our soul. And it's interesting because when a person lives in fear, which is expressed through shame, for example, his creativity or her creativity is quenched because you're afraid that what you present, whether you're a dancer, a singer, or a writer, or just whatever you present, you feel it'll be rejected. It's like when you're in a meeting, a prayer meeting, or just a meeting, there's people that are very, very quiet. Now, maybe that's their nature and they just don't like to talk. Or they're afraid to share anything because it'll be rejected. So what happens is they don't open their hearts, and the creative genes that are in us to create something goes down. When Julie and me started this little video thing, and we were really going to go live, we said to ourselves, wow, we're going to put ourselves out there. Now,
I couldn't do it the first time. I was too nervous.
so the first time we wanted to do it, Julia denied it, so she didn't want to do it. So we had to recopy it and stuff and all that other stuff because it's putting yourself out, because somebody listens to it and say, oh, these people, I hate you and all that. But we have to do it because of the fact, I believe, one, others struggle with, all of us have struggled with, and we found the freedom in God that we want others to feel. So creativity is crushed, and there's a lack of freedom in your life. For example, in the area of anger, let's say you're angry because you feel rejected. Well, that crushes you to reach out in any relationship for fear of being rejected. So what you do when people get close to you, you push them away. Or you find things about them that aren't good and you blame them for the fact you can't be open. So anger can produce that. Denial, that's based in pride a lot. There's nothing wrong. How you doing? I'm fine. Well, I don't think you are. It's funny because sometimes at the grocery store, the clerk will ask you, how you doing? And they're expecting the same answer. I'm doing fine. But if you say, I'm really having a rough day, they have no idea how to deal with you. So I kind of like to do that. Anyway, I have issues. But we choose to walk in freedom or not. As much as we chose to walk in the dark, we have to choose to walk in the light. Some of the things that fear really produces in us is a fear of failure is a big one. We're afraid to fail, therefore we don't try anything new, whether it's a new sport, downhill skiing, chess, checkers, whatever, new job, new responsibility, because we're afraid of failing. And the interesting thing about fear of failure is it's usually self-fulfilling. Do you ever think of that? Because you're afraid to make a mistake that you're always second guessing yourself. You think, well, what would the boss say? What would this say? What? Instead of just doing what you think is right and standing by your decision. Then if it is wrong, well, at least it's what you thought to do. But we get so caught up worrying about what this person thinks, what this person thinks. Will I do it? You all second guess yourself. Like if Julia does dance, and she's always worried about what the instructor will think about her dance, and she's got to do it this way, she'll be out on the dance floor, and you'll see a tension in all her movements because she's more worried about what the instructor thinks rather than God's creativity flowing through her. So then she juggles and adjusts things, and you can see it in any dancer, they're tense, rather than a relaxed, flowing atmosphere. So fear of failure is a huge one that we have. And another one is the fear of man, which is all tied into shame. What will people think of me? If I do this, what will they say? Mm-hmm. Will they like me? Maybe you painted an image of yourself that you got it together. And by sharing this, they're going to realize you don't have it together at all. And you go, oh man, what am I going to say? Some people say showing weakness or vulnerability is showing vulnerability is a weakness. It's not. Being open is not a weakness. But we live in a society that almost makes us afraid. And our value is dependent on how somebody sees us. I like you this day, I don't like you this day. And then your whole day, your whole feelings all torn up by what somebody thinks about you. And you know what? People don't think about you as much as you think they think about you. In fact, I don't think they think about you that much at all. And that's what I think. Now,
That's what I think.
I'm going to stop here. I know I've only began. I got a few more things to talk about. But I know you guys are busy. 15 minutes is a good time. But next week I'll touch on it again and hopefully finish this up. And I'll be doing it from Colorado Springs. So I thank you all for watching. And I just ask that you would continue to keep us up to date. And hopefully as we go, our videos get better. We might turn to YouTube eventually. And we'll also have a feedback time where emails can come in and I can respond. But as of now, it's just me and Jolia, and
we have guests.
And we have guests. So it's kind of hard to do more, but I am starting. So.
And the thing too, I think what I know from my experience, just to kind of end off, like in high school a lot, I kind of shut my voice down because I believed, I really was confident in what I believed, but I was afraid of voicing that because what if it's not liked because I like these super friends, or I was afraid to voice it because I'm like, well, I just don't want to like upset the tension. And so then I made that excuse rather than, well, if that's what you believe and that's what you don't want to follow, then there's nothing wrong with that. And it kept me at fear and it made me lost my voice. And so what's interesting though is that when you can realize those things and you allow to speak that, and when you allow God to heal you of that, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I'm a different person because I'm confident, because I know that no matter what, I'm loved by God. And when you actually have that understanding, even though it's kind of like, well, how can you feel that? If when you're loved by God, it literally changes you. And then that confidence comes out, and then people see that and they go, oh, like you're okay in your skin. You're not perfect, you make mistakes, but you're okay in your skin, you're okay with your voice. And that just re-edifies, oh my gosh, yeah, God has done so much in my life. And then other people encourage that in you to be yourself. And then it's just kind of this cycle of encouragement. So just want to let you guys know that there is a freedom in that when you can have that complete acceptance of not holding things back, like hidden denial or hidden shame or hidden anger or hidden fear. Yeah, because that's what it was, right? Like I was fearful to speak my voice because what if I upset the status quo, which in reality I was killing myself, and then I lost my voice, and then I lost in the end, right? Then I had to learn how to gain my voice back. So anyways, so just to end off that.
And then I know there's more to share on fear, but I leave you with a little bit of hope. In 1 John chapter 5 verse 18 he says, perfect love casts out all fear. And see, in many ways I think the opposite of fear is love. Unconditional love. By God, loved by your parents, loved by, my children love me and all that. That gives me confidence to speak because I have a base based on people loving me. And I just want to tell you that because that's what really makes us strong. So we got more to talk about. And again, thank you for looking. And I do appreciate the comments. It tells me if you're listening, or if you got questions, you can send them in and we'll try to answer them on the air. We'll try to do what we can, but no guarantees because we are small little group in my little office.
Well, we could have like a question and answer.
Well, let's not go there just yet because that's a huge thing. That's a huge thing. So you guys have a great week. And again, just in mind, every Saturday we try to put one on. Either Saturday or Saturday night, depending on what I'm doing. Okay, so God bless and thank you, Julia. Have a great day.
Bye.